Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of VNture Podcast. Once again, it's your host, Taros113, and MR here to bring you the greatest in visual novel news. This week's episode is going to be a little different because it is our 1 year anniversary. That's right, 52 weekly episodes. And this special episode's going to be a little different. We just wanted to give thanks to all of the people who have been there to support our journeys and really highlight how we wouldn't be here if it weren't for them. So, huge round of applause to everyone who helped us all. And I really want to go through and thank all of them individually. And not just the ones that we're pointing out in this episode, everyone involved, of course, but just trying to give thanks to as many people as possible.
It's amazing how time flies. It has been an adventure coming here. And let's kick it off, our recollections, with talking a little bit about the preparation, a thing that led to the podcast happening in the first place. And we need to give special shout-outs to our production staff that we list in credits by the end of all the episodes. The first I remember that I approached when we were discussing, just like a good VM that has a soundtrack in the background, we should ask someone, maybe they'll give us tips of what background noise, background music to use. And I approached Mareeck. He's a good friend of mine. I know he likes to compose stuff, just on some tips. What to do with that. And he said, don't worry, I got you, fam. And next time we spoke, he had some of our mixtape ready to go. Oh, that was such a joy. It brings tear to my eye.
Yeah, we've got Mareeck to thank for the background music you're hearing now.
Yeah, and funnily enough, we did not use the very first version that he proposed. We had some input, and he was so overjoyed to mix some more to suit our needs and how to suit it the best for the podcast. Oh man, I am very thankful for him for the awesome background music that we use. Thank you. The next person on our production staff was Lowly, the graphic designer, whom I approached asking, you know what? We need something striking, something unique, some sort of layout design to propose. And thinking about books, it's very hard to give the vibe of flipping pages on a podcast. So maybe something with a notepad. And hence, the idea was born of the note that is stuck as our design. And over like a couple weeks ago, I think we made a redesign of making it a little bit bigger. But other than that, it's stuck from the very first episode, doing some small tweaks here and there.
Over on YouTube, on the visual side of things, yeah, we've got the whole notebook aesthetic. And we've got all the green background colors and the general layout. We have Lowly to thank for that.
Yep. That was an amazing work. Thank you very much once more. And funny enough, continuing that train of thought, I was thinking, what kind of logo? And the one we use, the book on the black border, is something that was... I think I found it somewhere in the images. I was modified it a little bit to suit our needs, put it, but I asked Tuesday because I knew he was drawing a lot, and I asked him, can you whip me out some sort of a mock-up, a design very fast? And he wrote down the trees with a road coming inside the book, and I felt like, you know what, I'll use that for now. And ever since that placeholder that was supposed to be, we used that logo.
Oh, no, it's more than a placeholder.
I mean, that was my initial approach, but it stuck. I left it, and it's part of our layout. ever since.
And of course, we've got pokeharvest, who created the artwork for our banner that you might see on YouTube and on Spotify and even our Twitter header. I really like her art, and I was very overjoyed to have a commission done, and she was extremely helpful throughout the whole process. We made a whole bunch of changes and added stuff, and what you have now is the result of all of that awesome communication and hard work. So a huge shout out to pokeharvest for wonderful art.
Huge thank you for that banner. It's just glorious, and I love how we picked some details to oh my god, to spice it up a little, just a little bit.
Several
the basic
swords.
Premise, it's okay. We like swords, okay? Hammers, axes, swords, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But the basic premise: we have a desk, microphone, us talking. But then let's just spice it up a little bit, and it works so well. Oh my god. Ugh.
On a different train of thought, there's also the regular commenters on our videos that we wanted to give a shout out to. Of course, thanks to everyone. Some familiar names I see, though. One was someone by the name of Kyle Rayner Mason, who gave us like 12 great episode ideas in one comment. It was just like, hey, what do you guys have planned? And we were like, yeah, we've got some stuff. And he just dumped like a whole treasure trove of info and was like, what the heck, yo, that's great.
Oh my god, I remember how excited I was reading that comment. We appreciate all you commenting down below. We read them all. It's just when I saw that one, I knew the next time our meeting up with Taurus will be having a fire discussion. That was exactly what it was.
We actually already had some of those ideas in the works too, so I mean those were quality episode ideas.
Oh my! Whenever I read that comment and we saw on the list religion, I'm like, wait, we recorded that. How did he know? Oh my god, that was so fire! Oh my god, that was so cool.
Another shout out to some guy who usually gives us great responses, very in-depth, very in-depth discussions about some of the topics we addressed, and it really paves the way for a lot of great responses and thinking more deeper into the topics.
Yeah, I have to say I appreciate his insight every time. It's always a head scratcher, although he seems to be bullying me a little bit more than Taurus.
Oh.
Hey, equality. Please bully Taurus a little bit more too.
No, anti-bullying zone. No bullying at all anywhere.
But again, thank you very much for commenting.
And another quick shout out to Now It's Ange Time for also being a frequent listener and sharing his thoughts about all sorts of interesting things.
Yeah, exactly. He is definitely one who does not shy away from sharing his opinions all the time. But now the segment for thanks for all the guests. Let's go through all the list one by one. The very first guest that we had a pleasure of hosting, and the one that recently came back, Asid-kun. Every time is a pleasure. Thank you very much. It was. If I ever were to create an expose video, it would be about Acid, because despite the times he calls himself a degen, he's actually a really wholesome person. And I can't express that enough. Thank you for being awesome.
You can be both. You can have all the fun of degeneracy while having all the heartwarming aspects of being wholesome too. It's always been fun having him around.
Yeah, he is very passionate, and it was so endearing hearing him being worried that he could overshadow Taurus the first time around when he was here, and me and him expressed our enthusiasm about Evenico, and you barely got a word in, and he's like, sorry, I'm so sorry.
I'm not gonna stop him.
So
This dude loved Evenico. He wanted to
Oh.
talk about it. I'm like, heck yeah,
Yeah.
you go, dude. No, but that was very considerate of him. So
yeah,
thank you.
That was exactly.
He's a cool guy.
So he's a cool guy. Thank you very much. The next one on our list is the second guest, the Pablo C. I know him for a long time, and I don't know how to describe it other than he's the definition of Moegap. He's the person whenever I ask him about what he likes to read, and it's the darkest, the most weirdest VNs ever. But when I talk to him, he's the most level-headed, reasonable person. Like, how's that Moegap even possible? And I really appreciate him coming on to the podcast and sharing his experience with learning Japanese and running the translation project for If My Heart Had Wings.
It was really interesting getting to see the other side of fan translations and his discussions about Wailing Gingyol too. That was very cool.
Exactly. So, thank you very much.
We also got to have guest episodes with Saka and Hata about Fua novel. That was probably the most educational guest episode we've ever had. They really got to go in depth about Fua novel and what the website and forum were hoping to achieve, and just the history of them, and just so many little inner workings and details that I had never realized with the site.
Yeah, that was, wow, very insightful. I really appreciate that you went into the details of all those things happening in the background that we may not know and just take for granted. And this is one of those episodes. Sometimes I get DMs from our listeners on Discord or something, and this is the only one I got a message I did not, from a viewer of ours or listener, I did not expect to bring Swedish law into the conversation. Or
Swedish law.
Yeah, like out of nowhere, because it was something we discussed out of nowhere on a VN-based podcast. Like, but it makes sense. It was relevant. They brought it up. We talked about it. We discussed it. And yeah, all that's just left to say, thank you guys for having the time to join in. This was an interesting experience because this is the only episode so far we have two guests at the same time, and it was fun time all around. Let's revive one novel. Let's shout it out once more.
Yeah. And speaking of being a fun time, we had our guest after that. Now it's Ange time, or Super Ange, as he's known in some other places. This is one guy who has several different names because he's active on so many different communities, and it was a joy getting to finally have him on our show and just hang out, have fun, and talk about Moegeis.
Yeah, this is the first time we incorporated guests to our segments, because previously we tried to have special treatment for guests and leave it as that. But with Ange, the first time we tried something else, something new, and we incorporated him into our segment of Moege, because we did not know how to approach that topic at all. We're not reading Moege.
At his suggestion, too, he offered. He was like, yeah he'd love to talk about them. And we were like, oh, cool, that's great.
Oh, God. So we thank you very much for all the help and for all the retweeting, all the shout-outs, and giving us some signal boosting.
Yes, he's an awesome figure in the VN community.
Yeah, and for those that want some deeper lore for the podcast, Ange was actually the inspiration when he made his video of top 10 things he wants to see in VN community, one of which being he named specifically podcast. And when I heard that specific episode, I was thinking, I can do that. Let's contact Taurus. And one thing led to another, and here we are.
Yep, that's right. I forgot all about that. We owe our roots to Ange and his suggestion, and we took it from there. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. What a ride. Right?
Oh, man. Way more to go, too.
Yeah, we're not stopping. We are not stopping. We have some plans for the next year.
And then the guest after that was Vimy, a guy who actually created his own indie VNs, several of them. And it was really cool getting to see the artistic and the writing side of creating a VN. A lot of times we see that on the consumer side, and I guess you could say the criticisms of it. But getting to see the creation side of it on the other side was very refreshing.
Yeah, like this is our first episode in which we met production crew because to this point we often had the viewpoint of a customer or a reader, and now we have a creator for the first time. And something that Vimy said that stuck to me relates to character development, because I told him that I read 2 of his VNs, and I noticed one character development that was pretty forced, but I liked that despite it. And he said his experience with short form content, be it in cartoons or in short VNs, led him to believe that development is necessary, even if it's a bit forced. Because that actually made me think, like, he's right. If not for that character development, I wouldn't have that much to talk about that VN. Yeah, it had a twist, yet it had a setting, but the most gripping part of it all was how that one character behaved in all of that, and how that changed him. Like, yeah, he was correct. To this day, I remember that words. Like, yeah, I need to have some development, even if it's forced.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Yes, Vimy, he was very knowledgeable about all sorts of storytelling techniques. I was shocked. I was like, wow, you're right.
Yeah, he is correct. Like, wow, shout out to him. Amazing stuff. Keep being awesome, Vimy.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of being very knowledgeable, our guest after that was Ads. He prided himself on taking a very sophisticated look at criticism, of breaking down the pros and cons of works and really going into the details why. And just like with Vimy, it was very interesting to see, I guess, the other flip side of the coin, how you had 2 different approaches to having very in-depth reviews.
Yeah, exactly, because he represented the other side of the aisle, where Vimy was the creator who made those chapters deeper. Ads was deconstructing those chapters to find the depth, and to the lengths he went and the information he extracted and analyzed. I have deep respect for him and his literary knowledge. Like, wow. I am shocked. I was positively stunned. Yeah, I have huge respect for Ads that he does those kind of reviews and deconstruction analysis as he does.
Mm-hmm. I also had respect that he highly recommended some titles that I looked at and thought, oh, that looks like garbage. But he stuck to his guns. He said, like, no, this is actually great. And he did whole reviews breaking down why it was amazing. And I was like, oh, wow. I got a ton of respect for you there. And I think you convinced me, too.
Yeah, like, this is something I deeply respect, that he is willing to try, give it a chance, and then find what made that title tick. Or maybe, by the process, make some arguments why it failed. Like, and that's maybe even harder work to do, to outline where it actually did not succeed in what was meant to be. Like, this is just amazing work. His deconstruction of Muzlov was just phenomenal. Even if eternally we will not agree on Muzlov Tauros, at the very least we can agree that his video on the topic was just spectacular.
Mm-hmm. Very high effort. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you very much for agreeing to be a guest on the show. He brought his knowledge really well, and it was amazing talk.
Mm-hmm. Moving into some of the more recent guests we've had, the one after that was the August Hale, who was we had a blast with. Not only just getting to talk about, his own interests and his own YouTubing and social media stuff, but definitely getting to do a character tier list of heroine archetypes. That was a blast as we got
Oh
to
my
argue
god.
over best girls and worst girls, and we all had different points of views that were shared and reflected on for the first time. We had
I
so
have to
much
s-
fun.
I have to say, I have such a big respect for his professionalism as being a YouTuber, including divulging into topics such as memes or a tier list. And the biggest shocker of all, he was such a passionate uh, person to discuss the tier list of. I felt completely outclassed. He was prepared as hell to do that. I lost that part. Oh my god. He was
This
so hilarious.
this wasn't his first tier list rodeo.
Oh my god, he was amazing. But oh, it's just to this day I reminisce about that episode. And oh, if there ever is part two, if there ever is some sort of revenge, I'm going to get way more prepared than I was first time
Revenge.
around.
Oh, this guy's got a
I
grudge.
need
He is
all
salty.
my arguments, all my examples, all my titles. I'll have that ready to go.
Oh
You,
dear, oh dear,
you
oh dear.
both, Towers. You don't think I forgot about you. Don't think about it. I did not forget about you. You both were at it really nicely. You guys had such amazing chemistry and arguments. I just couldn't. I just kept cracking up on the episode recording. It was so good.
We could not have had that episode without August Hale and his great ideas and involvement.
Yep.
So huge thanks
Oh,
again.
oh yeah, that's also true. Yeah, it has to be said that was his idea. He brought it up. He had the tier list ready to go. He was super prepared for that. Oh god, it was spectacular. And to this day, I still get some DMs from people that post me their tier list. I'm like, what the hell?
Oh, that's great. We should share them.
It's just, yeah, it's just so funny to me. I mean, it makes sense. It's a cool episode on a bit of a light-hearted vibe, a discussion about what you prefer and with arguments and what resonates with you, what doesn't. And it's in a form that it's easy for people to express their own opinion. You don't need to formulate the same way with it argument. You just need to put that character, this level in tier list. That's it. Like that's an easy form. I understand now. I get it. I understand. Now I get the popularity of tier lists. Now I understand also our tier list might not be the best because Kuderes didn't win and they should have, and they got robbed, and I won't forget about that.
Well, yeah. We'll see how that goes again in the future. We'll see how that goes. But yes, huge thanks to August Hale again.
Huge thanks.
And our most recent guest, Noah Novels. Noah Novels also brought a whole unique aspect to our guest episodes by talking about his involvement with voice acting, especially. My main takeaway was that all of the important lessons he's learned while trying to incorporate some of those ideas into his own YouTubing career. It was great getting to learn more about him.
Yeah, I have to say, he was such a passionate person with his work in voice acting and getting to know the ins and outs of what it goes behind the scenes. And this marks also the first time in the comments section we got a question to our guests directly, like about the industry. Like, if you remember correctly, that was about the multiple takes and how that get compensated. Damn, I'm like, wow, the fact that he brought such a deep conversation, even I just can't thank enough for him sharing his experience with VN, voice acting in VNs, and yeah, even the discussion of how the voice play a role or not having a voice has to compensate for the lack thereof. Like, it was such a cool episode. I remember fondly. Such a passionate person. Thank you very much for appearing on as a guest.
Yes, a huge thank you again to everyone who was a guest formerly, as well as to all our listeners who ever liked any of the guests. A huge thanks to you as well.
every single time when we had guests appear, it's such a blast. It's such a blast. We are honored that you guys are willing to dedicate what is the most important time to us. I am thankful forever.
And lastly, but not least, all of our friends and family supporting us as well. We couldn't have come this far without your support.
Yeah, thank you very much, all the family friends who support us. I don't know if you want to share it, but my family is aware. Although sadly the language barrier is not helping because none of my family members know English, but they understand that I'm off every time we have the production session, so they understand and they support me with that. Oh god, yeah.
Yes, same here. Not the language barrier, but yes, they are aware. And they're very considerate, and they love talking about it too. That is very appreciated. Thank you, everyone.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you. And I have to say that now that they are knowledgeable about the podcast, I have to say even the presents are like, oh, maybe you need a new microphone. Maybe you want to, this and that. Oh god. Yeah.
MR.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, we're going to wrap up this week's episode. It's a little on the shorter side and it's a little more unique, but for a 1-year anniversary of us starting our podcast journey, we wanted to look back on all the people who helped make it possible. And we can't give enough thanks to everyone involved.
Yeah, I want to thanks today for all our guests, all our supporters, and most importantly, you, the viewer. Thank you, and see you next week.
See you next week.